everyone. Welcome to today's session. Before I say anything else, take a look at the title on the screen. Yes, it's Ethical Hacking and Penetration Testing. I hope many of you have heard about these words before. By it may happen, some might haven't, but that's perfectly fine. By the end of this session, I promise every single one of you will understand what ethical hacking is, how professionally how professionals actually do it, and most importantly, what you need to know to stay on the right side of the law while learning it. Let's get started. First, let me show you our roadmap for today's session. Exactly what we will cover in the session in what order. We will start with the basics, what ethical hacking actually is, and the different types of hackers, and then we will go into the methodology, the step by step process a hacker follows. After that, we will talk about something very important, the legal side, because this is where most beginners make dangerous mistakes. Then we move into the actual technical concept, footprinting, passive and active reconnaissance, Whois lookups, and DNS enumeration. And throughout the session, I will run live demos so you can see these things working in real time, not just slides. By the time we are done, you won't just know the theory, but you will understand how the process works from the beginning to end. Sounds good? Let's go. What is ethical hacking? Simply, I would like to say ethical hacking is the practice of breaking into systems with permission. You are doing the same things a malicious hacker would do, but you have a contract, you have authorization, and your goal is to help the organization, not to hurt it. Now, let's see the definition. The technical definition is authorized practice of bypassing systems security to identify vulnerabilities before malicious hackers can exploit them. Notice the key word authorized. The one word is what separates an ethical hacker from a criminal. Now let's take a real world analogy. Here's the analogy I want you to remember. Imagine a bank. The bank wants to know, can someone break into your vault? So they hire a professional locksmith and say, try to break in. Try everything. Tell us what works and how to fix it. That locksmith is an ethical hacker. They are not trying to steal anything. They are getting paid to find weakness. Now, ethical hacking sits on three pillars. The first pillar is authorized, the second one is legal, and third one is constructive. Let's talk about the first pillar. It must be authorized. You need written permission, not verbal, not assumed return. The second, let's go towards legal. It must be legal. There are specific laws in every country that govern this. We will cover those in detail. The third one, it must be constructive. The goal is always to improve security, never to cause damage or steal data. Any questions so far? Does the bank analogy make sense? Now, who actually does this hacking? Let's talk about the different types of hackers. In the security world, we classify hackers by their intent and whether they have permission. We use hat colors as a convention. Let's go through all three. The first one, white hat hackers. This is what you are training to become. They work with companies with permissions to find vulnerabilities. Stress the word with. They could be a bug bounty hunter who gets paid to find bugs in an app, a penetration tester hired by a bank to test their network, or a security consultant. Everything they do is legal and documented. The second one is grey hat. Grey hat hackers, these are in the middle. They hack into the systems without permissions, but their intention isn't to cause harm. They find a vulnerability and then they tell the company, hey, your system has this flaw, you should fix it. Sometimes they even ask for a payment for the information. Now, here's the thing, even though their intention sounds good, they are still breaking the law. Intent does not override legality. If you don't have permission, it doesn't matter that you meant well, you could still be prosecuted. Now, the third one is black hat. Black hat hackers, these are the criminals. They hack with malicious intent to steal data, spread ransomware, destroy systems, or sell information on the dark web. This is what news articles talk about when they say hackers attacked it to a hospital or hackers leaked a company's database. Completely illegal. In most countries, you are looking at a prison time. Now, let me ask you a question, and I want you to really think about this before you answer. A student finds a vulnerability in their college website. They don't exploit it, they don't steal data, they just send an email to the college IT team and saying, I found a bug on your login page. Which hat are they? I'll wait for you 15 seconds so that you can think about it and then I'll answer. The answer is technically grey hat or possibly even black hat legally, even though their intention was good because they accessed a system they didn't have permission to go. Even they did it from the login page. This is why authorization matters so much. Two more types I want to mention briefly are script kiddies. These are people who use hacking tools written by others without really understanding how they work. They are not skilled, but they can still cause damage and get into legal trouble. And the second one is hacktivists, hackers who are motivated by ideology. They might hack government websites to make a political statement, still illegal in most jurisdictions. Let's go to the next slide. Now we get into the how. How does an ethical hacker actually approach a target? There's a defined methodology, 5-step process. And this isn't something I made up. This is the actual framework used by professionals worldwide. Step 1, Reconnaissance. The very first thing a hacker does before they touch anything is gather information. Gathering information is the important part. They learn as much as possible about the target, who runs it, what technologies do they use, what servers do they have, what employees work there. This is called reconnaissance. And we will spend a lot of time on it today because it's the most important phase. Step 2, Scanning. Once you know who the target is, you probe it. You scan for open ports, doors into the system. You look for running services. What software is listening on those ports? You check for vulnerabilities. Tools like Nmap are used here. We will cover this in a future session. Step 3, Gaining access. Now you exploit a vulnerability you found. Now you use that open door to actually get inside the system. This is what movies show. But in reality, it's very methodical, not dramatic. Step 4, Maintaining access. Once inside, in a real attack, a hacker would try to stay persistent, create backdoors, install malware. Ethical hackers do this too, but only to simulate what a real attacker would do, and only within the defined scope. This helps the client understand the full damage an attacker could cause. Step 5, covering tracks. Finally, a real attacker would delete logs, remove traces of their presence. Ethical hackers understand this phase so they can help clients detect and prevent it. In real engagements, ethical hackers document everything and never actually destroy evidence. That would be tampering. One of the critical point is this is not a straight line. It's a loop. You might do recon, find something interesting, go back and do more recon, then scan, then circle back. It's a continuous process. Let's go to the next slide. Now, you might be thinking, what's the difference between the methodology we just covered and these penetration testing phases? The methodology is your mindset, how you think about hacking. The penetration testing phases are the business process, what you actually do as a professional on a paid engagement. Let me walk you through all six. Phase 1, pre engagement. Before you touch a single keyboard, you sit down with the client. You've defined the scope. Which systems can you test? Which are off limits? You sign contracts, statement of work, and NDA, that is non disclosure agreement. You agree on rules of engagement. Can you send phishing emails? Can you test on weekends? All of this documented before anything begins. Phase 2, intelligence gathering. This is our Reconnaissance phase. OSINT, open source intelligence. Whois lookups, DNS enumeration, social media research. We'll cover all of this in today's session. Phase 3, threat modeling. Based on your intelligence, you build a picture of how an attacker might approach this organization. What's the most valuable asset? How would you get to it? You are thinking like the bad guy, but on the good tip. Phase 4, vulnerability analysis. You use tools like Nmap, Nessus, or OpenVAS to scan for weakness. You also do manual analysis, automated tools, miss things. You research CVEs, common vulnerabilities and exposures, which are publicly documented security flaws in software. Phase 5, exploitation. You actually try to exploit the vulnerabilities you found. If successful, you try to escalate privileges, pivot to other systems, and demonstrate how far an attacker could get. Phase 6 is reporting phase. This is arguably the most important phase for a profession. You write a detailed report, an executive summary for management, and a technical section for the IT team. Every finding gets a risk rating, and crucially, you give remediation steps, not just here's the problem, but here's how to fix it. Frameworks like PTES, the Penetration Testing Execution Standard, and the OWASP testing guide from formalize these phases. When you work for a company, these are the standards you follow. Let's go to the next slide. This is the slide I want everyone to pay attention because it's very important. Legal considerations. I need to be very direct with you. Hacking a system without return permission is criminal offense. It doesn't matter if you find nothing. It doesn't matter if your intention was good. It doesn't matter if the system belongs to your friend. If you don't have explicit written authorization, you are breaking the law. Let me tell you about the laws that apply to you. Let's talk about India first. IT Act 2000, Section 66. In India, unauthorized access to a computer system is punishable under Section 66 of the IT Act 2000. You could face up to 3 years in prison and a significant fine. And this isn't theoretical. Students have been arrested in India for testing systems without permission. Second, USA. In the United States, the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, that is CFAA, is the main law. Penalties range from fines to up to 10 or more, even 20 years in federal prison for serious offenses. Let's talk about UK and EU. The UK has the Computer Misuse Act 1990, up to 10 years. The EU has GDPR and the NIS2 directive. You can face fines in the millions for data related breaches. Now, what do you always need before you start a pen test? Yes, written authorization, defined scope of testing, non disclosure agreement, rules of engagement document, and emergency contact list. Let's have a little brief about it. Written authorization, that is a signed document, defines scope, exactly which systems you can touch. An NDA, that is non-disclosure agreement, because you are going to see sensitive things. Rules of engagement, what methods are allowed, and an emergency contact list. If something goes wrong, what do you call? Who do you call at 2 a.m.? Here's a real scenario. A security researcher found a massive vulnerability in a government website. He didn't exploit it. He didn't steal data. He just found it and reported it publicly on Twitter. Thinking he would be praised, he was arrested. The lesson: even responsible disclosure has to be done the right way. The good news is, if you want to make this a career, certifications like CEH, OSCP, and CompTIA pen test teach you all of this systematically, including the legal and ethical frameworks. Let's go to the next slide. It's about footprinting and reconnaissance. Now we get into the first real technical concept of today's session. Think of it in this way: a burglar just doesn't just walk up to a house randomly and try to break in. They first observe the house. They watch when the owners leave. They check if there's a guard dog. They look for an unlocked window. They gather intelligence before they act. That's footprinting. In hacking, footprinting means systematically collecting as much information as possible about your target before you do anything active. The more information you have, the more targeted and effective your approach will be. Let's talk up. There are two ways of reconnaissance. The first is passive reconnaissance and the second is active reconnaissance. Let's talk about passive reconnaissance. Passive reconnaissance means you gather information without ever directly touching the target system. Without. This is the highlighted word I would be saying: without. I would like to repeat the sentence. Passive reconnaissance means you gather information without ever directly touching the target system. The target has no idea you are using publicly available sources, things anyone could look at. For example, you Google the company, you look at their LinkedIn page to see what technologies their engineers list on their profiles. You check job postings because if a company is hiring for AWS engineers with Kubernetes experience, you know how their tech stack. You check Shodan.io, which shows you what servers the company has exposed to the internet. All of this is passive, completely legal, zero risk of detection. Now let's talk about active reconnaissance. Active reconnaissance means you do interact directly with the target, you send packets to their servers, you scan their ports, query their DNS. This is faster and gives you more precise information, but it leaves traces in their logs. So, in a real engagement, you do this only after you have returned permission. Let me show you one of the most powerful passive recon tool available, and it requires no hacking skills at all, just a browser. Let's go to the browser. Let's type first we'll log in. I'll be continuing with Google. So you can see how it looks. This website is called Shodan. Some people call it the search engine for hackers. Yes, but that's slightly misleading. Shodan is a search engine for internet connected devices. It continuously scans the entire public internet and indexes what it finds. Now, let's search for Mumbai City Port. Let's type over here in the search box. See, I have searched for all devices in Mumbai that have port 22 open. Port 22 is SSH. It's the remote login port for servers. Look at what its comebacks. See, these are the ports open. These are real servers, real IP addresses, real devices sitting on the internet in Mumbai. Some of them are poorly configured, some are running outdated software, some have default passwords, and I did nothing. I didn't send a single packet to any of these servers. I just searched a website that is passive reconnaissance. Yes? Now let's do one more search. Uh, let's say we will do on BSNL. So Port 23 is Telnet, a very old, insecure protocol that shouldn't be exposed to the internet at all. Look, there are devices still running Telnet. If a hacker found this in a malicious context, this would be easy targets. Okay. So, yes, we can see it in Jamshedpur, Gurugram, and all. The lesson is a massive amount of security information is publicly available. Part of your job as an ethical hacker is to find these before the bad guys do. Now let's close Shodan. Yes, let's go back to our PPT. Let's go to the next slide. Now let's talk about WHOIS. Who is this domain registered to? Okay, every time someone buys a domain name like google.com, amazon.com, or your startup.in, and etc., the registrar records information about that owner. This information is stored in a public database called Whois, and anyone can query it. From a Whois lookup, you can find the name and organization that registered the domain, their contact email, and phone number. When the domain was registered, which tells you how established the company is. When it expires, which tells you if it might be vulnerable to domain hijacking, the registrar they used, and the name servers, which tells you about their DNS infrastructure. Why does the expiry date matter? If a company's domain is expiring in 2 weeks and they forgot to renew it, a hacker could buy it right after it expires and receive all their email, including password reset emails, is called a domain hijacking. And it's a real attack. The terminal output shows what you see when you run the Whois command. Let me show you. Yes, you can run Whois commands on terminal and as well as browser. I'll be showing you it on browser. Let's go to the browser. We will be going to this first link. Now we will be entering here our domain name. Say we enter. We will be doing google.com. We will be writing google.com in domain name. Let's search. This is what we have got. Domain information, registration information, registrant contact, and technical contact. Yes, the registrant, the registrar is Mark Monitor, a service used by a big companies to protect their domains. The domain was created in 1997. Google has owned this domain for almost 30 years. The expiry date notice it's renewed years in advance, so Google will never accidentally lose this domain. The name server ns1.google.com, ns2.google.com, ns3.google.com, ns4.google.com. Google runs their own DNS. Now let me check a smaller domain so you can see more interesting information. Uh, let's Go back and let's check for a smaller domain. Say tryhackme.com. Let's search for it. Here you can see this one might show more registrant details, uh, or it might be protected. Many domains use Whois privacy services that replace the owner's real name and contact with the registrar's generic info. As an ethical hacker, you note this. It means you will need to use other techniques to find the information. Okay, see. Now let's get back to our PPT. Yes. Let's talk about DNS enumeration. Our last technical topic for today is DNS enumeration. This is where things get really interesting. DNS stands for Domain Name System. Think of it as the phone book of the internet. When you type google.com in your browser, your computer asks DNS, what's the IP address for google.com? DNS replies 142.250.xxxx and your browser connects to that IP. But DNS stores more than just one type of record. There are several different types of records, and each one reveals something different about the target's infrastructure. Let's have a walk through each DNS record. The first one, the A record, maps a domain to an IPv4 address. This is the most basic. It tells you the server IP address. The AAAA record, same thing but for IPv6 addresses. The newer version. The MX record, mail exchange. This tells you which servers handle the company's email. This is very useful for attackers planning phishing campaigns because now they know exactly where the email infrastructure is. The NS record, name servers. These are the authoritative servers for the domain. They are responsible for answering all DNS queries for this domain. The next one is CNAME, CNAME record, and alias. www.example.com might be a CNAME pointing to example. This reveals alternative names for services. The next one is the TXT record, the text records. These often contain SPF records, which tell you which servers are authorized to send email for this domain. DKIM keys and sometimes verification codes from third party services, which tell you what tools the company uses. DNS enumeration means querying all of these records types systematically to build a picture of an organization's infrastructure. You can discover subdomains like mail.company.com, vpn.company.com, dev.company.com, which might be less secure than the main website and provide alternative entry points. Let's have a demo. We will be going to terminal for this. Okay. You can also open your terminal side by side and have a look over it. Yeah, so we are in the terminal. We'll be talking about NS Lookup. Let's start with NS Lookup. It's available on Windows, Mac, and Linux. Say we type, let's type first NS Lookup. Type it's MX. Yeah. So I am querying the MX records for Gmail. See, watch this. This has come back. Gmail.com MX preference equals to 30. Mail exchange equals to alt 3 dot gmail smtp dot in dot l dot google.com. See, we have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 outputs. Yeah. Gmail uses multiple mail servers. Gmail smtp.in.1.google.com and several backup servers at different priority levels. The number next to each server is the priority. Okay. The number next to each server is the priority. Lower number means it tries that server first. As an attacker, this tells you the complete email routing path for the Gmail. Now let's type something else. Let's say we type NS lookup uh, type equals to txt google.com. The TXT records reveal Google's SPF policy. It describes which servers are authorized to send email on Google's behalf. Security researchers use this to understand a company's email security posture. So you can see it is for company security. Okay. Now we will be studying Dorking. For that, we will be using browser. Let's go to the browser. Uh, just a second. Uh, for Google Docking, we will open browser and one last technique, that is Google Docking. This uses Google's own advanced searches. This uses Google's own advanced searches operators to find sensitive information that's publicly indexed. This is completely passive. You are just searching Google. So let's go. Let's type site dot LinkedIn. LinkedIn. Um, this this finds LinkedIn profiles of engineers who have listed their Infosys email as a social engineer. You now have names and contact info for employees. Okay. You can see Infosys, LinkedIn Career, LinkedIn Infosys Engineering Services. That's see Sudaresh Sankaran, Vice President Engineering, Infosys, Senior Design Engineer. Kirthana Ji, Senior System Engineer, Infosys. You can see their experience and all their education and everything is listed. Okay. Now let's talk about something else. Let's type something else. Maybe something confidential. I type. Uh, this searches for PDF files on Indian government websites that contain the word confidential. You would be surprised what comes up. See, the Directorate of Public Grievances. This is confidential and urgent. Confidential. Confidential. Okay. Now, let's type something more exciting. Let's say, let's type entitled index of backslash backup. This looks for web servers with directory listing enabled, showing backup folders, sometimes entire database. Backups are sitting on public web servers, accessible to anyone. Fire hydrant. See, we can see backups. A page indicates an open web directory with publicly accessible backup files. This usually happens when directory browsing is enabled and no default landing like index.php or index.html is present. Okay, all of this Shodan, Whois, DNS Enumeration, Google Docking is passive reconnaissance, legal, undetectable, and incredibly powerful. This is set up This is step one of every professional penetration test. Okay, now let's get back to our PPT. Let's go to the next slide. Let's take a step back and look at everything we covered in this session. What we covered today? We covered what ethical hacking is and why it matters. White, gray, and black hat hackers types. 5-step hacking methodology. 6 phases of penetration test. Legal frameworks. IT Act, CFAA, and etc. Footprinting, passive versus active reconnaissance, quiz lookups and what they reveal, DNS record types, and enumeration. We have started from zero, understanding what ethical hacking is and why it's a legitimate, in demand career. We learned the difference between white, gray, and black hat hackers and why that gray area is still legally dangerous. We walk through the 5 steps methodologies that every ethical hacker follows and the 6 phases of a professional penetration test. We talk seriously about the legal framework, the IT Act, CFAA, GDPR, and why you must always have written permission. And we did live demos of passive recognize using Shodan, Whois, DNS Enumeration, and Google Docking. Now, here are some next steps for you. Uh, Go home and sign up for tryhackme.com. It's free to start and has beginner friendly labs that run in your browser. No setup needed. Start with the pre security path, then move to junior penetration tester. Everything is guided and legal. You are hacking machines that are specifically set up for you to hack. If you want to go deeper, look into these certifications CEH by EC Council, CompTIA Pen Test, and eventually OSCP. That's the good standard for penetration testers. And that brings us to the end of today's session. Thank you all so much for your uh, attention. Remember the 3 things we talk about: practice daily, stay legal, keep learning. If you do all 3 consistently, you will have a very strong foundation in cybersecurity within a year. And I'll leave you with this: with great power comes great responsibility. The skills you are learning are powerful. They can protect companies, secure critical infrastructure, and make the internet safer for everyone. Or they can be misused and destroy careers and lives. The choice is always yours. Hack ethically, always. And if you have further any queries, you can reach out us at biotechnology, biotech. You can reach out us at biotechrebeyond@gmail.com.